As with previous FromSoftware games, it feels like we'll need to spend quite a bit of time with Sekiro Shadows Die Twice in order to fully grasp every mechanic and system in its densely layered and complex world. But during a recent hands-on we had with the game, all the signs were there that we could expect the same level of attention to detail, intrigue, and satisfying combat we've come to expect from FromSoftware. So with that in mind, here are 5 reasons we cannot wait to play Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Just a heads up, careful if you're wanting to go into this game fresh, there are some story and gameplay details to follow. The first thing to note about Sekiro is that it's not an RPG in the traditional sense of the term. Unlike the Soulsborne titles, you don't create a character and you don't pick a class upon starting a new game. You play as one lone wolf shinobi, whose proficiencies, goals, and backstory are already predetermined. That means that every tool and weapon you find is tailored specifically to you. It won't be a case of finding endless items that are useless to your build. However, there are upgrades to be made to your shinobi tools, and there are skill trees that can be unlocked via experience earned by felling your enemies. The reason that there isn't the same level of customization as previous FromSoftware games is that there's a greater emphasis on story in Sekiro, which becomes apparent within the game's opening sequence. While this may be a departure from what certain fans have come to expect from the developer, we're excited to see what From does with this new framework, because despite certain elements, core combat is very different to Bloodborne and Dark Souls, and that makes for a thrilling change. Before we dive into combat though, let's have a chat about story. Sekiro's setup is actually fairly straightforward. Fallen shinobi warrior seeks to rescue his kidnapped master from sinister forces. But all the hallmarks are there for From's trademark twisted and often esoteric storytelling, where only players who have searched every inch of the world will fully grasp the greater picture. Within the first few hours, plenty of memorable NPCs leave their mark, and it's not long before you discover that your very presence is doing them quite serious damage. In a cruel and no doubt soon to be stressful twist, it turns out that in Sekiro, the number of times you die and resurrect has a potentially disastrous impact upon those close to you. Death and resurrection, while a core and nigh inescapable mechanic of the game, would appear to have a negative impact on the story of Sekiro, in that every time you use the power bestowed on you by your master, the Divine Heir, who carries dragon's blood in his veins, you unwillingly spread a plague known as dragonrot to nearby NPCs, and this condition, you're told, will eventually lead to their death. Emma, a physician who hangs out in the main hub of the game, tells you she's working on a cure, so it would seem that there will be opportunities to save or condemn the characters you meet. It's possible this will tie into the game's confirmed multiple endings, and will surely be a source of extreme stress for players wanting to save every soul they can. Because you will die. Not just as it's a core mechanic of the game, but because combat in Sekiro is tough and exacting, demanding nothing less of you than keen concentration and precise timing. There is no stamina bar. Players can jump and dodge and strike to their heart's content. The only conditions you need to concern yourself with are vitality and posture, and the second of these is absolutely key to victory. Each standoff boils down to a tussle for posture, you trying to whittle down your enemies while they try to break yours. Breaking an enemy's posture generally leads to you being able to perform a death blow, a spectacularly gory finisher that kills your opponent in a single attack. The first few guards you encounter only require a few quick hits to break through their defences, but it isn't long before their generals and more heavily armoured comrades show up to really test your skill. While you need to be aggressive and not let your foes put you on the back foot, parrying is the real trick to quick success, though it does demand pinpoint perfect timing. And every enemy is different, so you can't rely on constant R1 spamming to get the job done. Instead, you must watch each foe intently, feel out their moves and their weaknesses, and respond accordingly. Some will employ unblockable attacks, which will be foreshadowed by some red kanji script angrily appearing on screen. Here, you must learn which attacks require a jump, and which must be sidestepped or parried in order to avoid serious damage coming your way. In an early preview of the game last year, we spoke to a FromSoftware developer who told us that in making the game, FromSoftware president and Soulsborne veteran Hidetaka Miyazaki centered literally everything about Sekiro around the feeling of steel clashing against steel. And it shows. Striking swords with opponents is a tense and thrilling experience, making each moment you land a death blow feel hard-won and extremely satisfying. After the dark and dying worlds of Lordran and Yharnam in Dark Souls and Bloodborne respectively, it's refreshing to see how unashamedly bright and beautiful the environments in Sekiro can be. From cherry blossom groves to serene mountaintop temples, there are colour palettes here that feel fresh in a From game, and it's a very welcome change-up. It's clear the developer is keen to show off the natural beauty of Japan, and succeeds with flying colours. Sekiro also seems like it could make the most of different locations via the unexpected medium of time travel. Communing with a particular statue with an item in tow, we were sent 3 years into the past, where we were surprised to be witnessing an event we were previously present at. Some players who were also at the same preview event never actually encountered this. The potential of seeing places, people, and events from different perspectives in the game looks like it could be another way to approach divergent storytelling and actually make it part of the gameplay, rather than a cutscene or a wordy exposition dump. Leave it to From to try something different. Finally, Sekiro is more accessible than previous FromSoftware games. This does not mean it's easier. The combat in many ways is far more unforgiving than Dark Souls or Bloodborne. By accessible, we mean that the game takes a little bit more time to explain certain systems, and then gives players time to practice and perfect them. There's a tutorial that will let you break down and dissect the combat risk-free, and perhaps even more player-friendly, you can now pause the game, owing to its lack of multiplayer component. During its opening stages, the game also pauses when it's telling you how to use an item or how a new mechanic works, which is a small thing, but it means that you can take the moment to fully absorb any new information, as opposed to the tutorial messages in Soulsborne games that were brief notes plastered on the ground around the world, which would keep moving and turning as you stopped to read. What's also interesting is that even when Sekiro feels linear, it seemingly isn't. At the preview event, where we played almost 3 hours of content, we spoke to others who had made their way through the same build and discovered that we'd taken very different routes, to the extent that some of us travelled to areas and fought bosses that others hadn't even encountered. Other players spoke to NPCs and dug deeper into some of the more hidden mechanics of the game. No two playthroughs were the same, in other words, even when we all believed we were simply taking the most obvious route. That is a very exciting prospect to take into the final game, and a lot of this probably has something to do with how important stealth is in Sekiro, or at least how important it can be. Obviously, in order to amass experience and skills, you need to face your enemies, and killing them can also lead to more chances to resurrect should you fall in battle. But more often than not, you can choose to avoid enemies or at least sneak up on them to deliver a swift but brutal death. And this soft approach opens up new pathways and routes that wouldn't be so obvious should you go into every new area sword first. Another benefit of going the stealthy route is eavesdropping. Listening in on unaware foes can let you in on particular enemy weaknesses or the location of rare items. It's an intriguing new layer to an already intricate game. Let us know your thoughts on Sekiro Shadows Die Twice in the comments below. Is it Soulsy or not Soulsy enough? Or are you more of a Tenchu fan? Excited to see how From have handled what will probably be the closest thing to a Tenchu reboot. Let us know and keep an eye on the channel for more Sekiro videos dropping closer to launch. Until then, click that subscribe button and bell icon if you fancy it, and thanks for watching. Bye!